All right, listen up. I need to get this off my chest because it's been eating at me for years. This happened back when I was in college, and it still gives me chills. I used to live in a small town in the Midwest, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone and nothing really exciting ever happens. I went to a local community college and worked part-time at a grocery store. My schedule was pretty hectic, juggling classes and shifts, so I often ended up driving home late at night. One Friday night, I got off work around midnight. It was a typical shift, nothing unusual. I hopped into my car, ready to make the 20-minute drive back home. The route I took was a long, lonely stretch of road that cut through miles of farmland. It was faster than taking the highway, and I liked the quiet. As I drove, the familiar landscape flew by endless fields, occasional farmhouses set far back from the road, and not another car in sight. I turned up the radio, trying to keep myself awake. The thing about this road is that it's dead straight for miles, so it's easy to zone out. About 10 minutes into the drive, my headlights caught something unusual. Up ahead, on the right side of the road, there was a car parked on the shoulder. It was an old, beat-up sedan, and as I got closer, I noticed that its hazard lights were on. I slowed down out of instinct, wondering if someone needed help. When I pulled up alongside the car, I could see a man standing next to it, waving. He looked to be in his late 40s, with scruffy hair and wearing a flannel shirt. He seemed agitated, so I rolled down my window a bit. "Hey, you okay?" I called out. "Thank God. I've been out here for hours," he said. "My car broke down, and I can't get a signal to call for help. Can you give me a ride to the nearest gas station?" Something about the situation felt off. Maybe it was the way he was too eager, or how he kept looking around nervously. But it was late, and I felt bad for the guy. Against my better judgment, I told him to hop in. He climbed into the passenger seat, and immediately I regretted it. Up close, he smelled like he hadn't showered in days. I tried to stay calm and started driving. "So, where do you need to go?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Just the nearest gas station," he replied. "There's one a few miles down the road." Right, I nodded, focusing on the road. The silence between us was thick, and I could feel him watching me. My mind raced with thoughts. Who is this guy? Why is he out here in the middle of nowhere? After what felt like an eternity, I saw the lights of a gas station up ahead. Relief washed over me. I pulled in and parked near the entrance. "Thanks a lot," he said, but he made no move to get out. "No problem," I replied, hoping he would leave quickly. Instead, he turned to me and said, "You know, I was hoping to find someone like you." My heart skipped a beat. What did he mean by that? Someone kind enough to help, he added, as if sensing my unease. Not everyone would stop for a stranger these days. "Yeah, well, I'm glad I could help," I said, forcing a smile. "You take care now." He finally opened the door and got out. I watched as he walked into the gas station. Then I peeled out of there as fast as I could. My hands were shaking, and my heart was racing. Something about that encounter just felt wrong. The next morning, I turned on the local news while eating breakfast. My blood ran cold when I saw the headline, "Local man found dead near gas station." The picture they showed was of the guy I had picked up. The report said he was a wanted fugitive, suspected of multiple murders. They found his car abandoned on the side of the road, not far from where I had picked him up. He had been stabbed to death, and the police were looking for his killer. I couldn't believe it. I had narrowly escaped a murderer, only for him to meet his own violent end. To this day, I wonder if he was planning to kill me, or if someone else got to him first. Either way, I never take that road at night anymore. It was late summer, and I was driving back to my hometown after visiting a friend in a neighboring state. The sun had set hours ago, and the highway was eerily quiet, with only the occasional car passing by. I had the radio on low, trying to keep myself awake as I navigated the dark, winding roads. I was about halfway through my journey when I decided to take a shortcut. It was a route I had taken before, a quiet back road that cut through a dense forest. It would shave off at least half an hour from my drive, and I was eager to get home and into bed. About 15 minutes in, I saw a car parked on the side of the road, its hazard lights flashing. As I got closer, I could see a woman standing next to it, waving her arms to get my attention. I slowed down and pulled over, rolling down my window. "Are you okay?" I called out. The woman looked relieved as she approached my car. "Thank God you stopped. My car broke down and I can't get a signal on my phone. Can you give me a ride to the nearest gas station?" She seemed genuinely distressed, and I couldn't leave her stranded in the middle of nowhere. I unlocked the passenger door, and she climbed in, thanking me repeatedly. As we drove, I tried to make conversation to ease the tension. She introduced herself as Emily and explained that she was on her way to visit her sister. Her car had started acting up, and she had pulled over when it became undrivable. I told her about my trip and how I was heading home after a long visit with a friend. The conversation flowed easily at first, but as we continued, I noticed something odd. Emily kept glancing at the clock on the dashboard, her face growing more anxious with each passing minute. "Are you in a hurry?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She hesitated before answering. "Not really. I just don't want to be out here longer than necessary." I nodded, understanding her concern. The forest road was isolated and dark, and I could see why she would be uneasy. I assured her that we would reach the gas station soon. But as we drove on, the GPS on my phone started acting up, the signal cutting in and out. The map showed us veering off course, even though I was sure I was following the road correctly. Emily noticed and asked if we were lost. I don't think so, I replied, trying to sound confident. This road leads to the highway, and from there we can find a gas station, but doubt began to gnaw at me as the road seemed to stretch on endlessly, with no sign of the highway or any other landmarks. Suddenly, Emily's phone buzzed. She pulled it out and frowned at the screen. That's weird. I have a signal now, but it's showing a location I don't recognize. Curious, I glanced at my own phone, which now displayed a strange location name I had never seen before. It was as if we were in a place that didn't exist on any map. Let's just keep going, I said, trying to stay calm. We'll find our way out, but as the minutes turned into an hour, my confidence began to wane. The road seemed to twist and turn in ways I didn't remember. Then, out of nowhere, we saw a dim light ahead. As we got closer, it became clear that it was a small, run-down gas station. Relief washed over me as I pulled into the parking lot. I turned to Emily. We're here. Let's see if we can get some help. We both got out of the car and walked towards the entrance. The bell above the door jingled as we stepped inside. An elderly man stood behind the counter, watching us with a curious expression. Evening, he greeted us. What can I do for you folks? I explained our situation, and he nodded thoughtfully. This road can be tricky at night. You're lucky you found this place. Not many people come through here after dark. Emily asked if there was a mechanic nearby who could help with her car. The man scratched his head. There's a garage a few miles down the road. I can give you directions, but it's closed for the night. Best bet is to wait until morning. We thanked him and bought some snacks and drinks before heading back to the car. As we sat there munching on chips and sipping soda, I tried to come up with a plan. Emily suggested we stay at the gas station until morning, but the thought of spending the night in the car didn't appeal to me. Let's drive a bit further, I suggested. Maybe we'll find a motel or something. Reluctantly, Emily agreed, and we set off again, following the man's directions. The road seemed less ominous with a destination in mind. After about 20 minutes, we saw a sign for a motel up ahead. It was a small, shabby place, but it offered a place to rest. We checked in, and the receptionist gave us a key to a room at the far end of the lot. The room was basic but clean, with 2 twin beds and a small bathroom. Emily thanked me again for helping her, and we agreed to get some rest and figure things out in the morning. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The events of the night played over and over in my mind, and sleep eluded me. Eventually, exhaustion took over, and I drifted off. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. It was morning. I checked my phone and saw several missed calls and messages from family and friends, worried about my whereabouts. I sat up and looked over at Emily's bed, but it was empty. Her backpack was gone, and there was no sign of her. Panic set in as I called out her name and searched the room, but she was nowhere to be found. I rushed to the reception desk and asked if anyone had seen her. The receptionist gave me a puzzled look. You checked in alone last night. There was no one with you. My heart pounded in my chest. I was certain Emily had been with me. I ran to the parking lot and checked my car, but there was no sign of her belongings. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Desperate, I drove back to the gas station, hoping the old man could help me. But when I arrived, the station was abandoned, boarded up and covered in dust. It looked like it hadn't been in operation for years. I stood there bewildered and terrified. What had happened to Emily? Had I imagined the whole thing? The questions swirled in my mind, and I felt a deep sense of dread. To this day, I don't know what happened that night. Emily was never found, and I was left with the haunting memory of her disappearance. The road through the forest remains a mystery, a place where reality and illusion seem to blur, leaving those who venture there questioning their own sanity.